Welcome to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast, the place for scrappy entrepreneurs who want to learn actionable steps and strategies to grow the traffic, sales, and profit in your e-commerce business. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster, a 20-year retail veteran and former brick-and-mortar boutique owner who spent 3 years as the only employee of a 7-figure online store. That shit was crazy. I know exactly how it feels to do all the things, and I'm sharing everything I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I may have started this business by accident, but supporting badass bosses like you lights me the fuck up, and I am so stoked to see you grow. Are you ready, babe? Let's roll. Welcome back to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster. In late 2022, I released a podcast episode, E-commerce Trends 2023, How to Stay Relevant and Compete in the Online Space. It's episode 181 if you want to take a listen, and yes, it's all still accurate. To date, it's still one of my top listened to episodes, and according to Spotify, was how most of my new followers had found me on the platform last year. Like a good marketer, I originally intended to release a similar episode at the beginning of 2024. But because not much had really changed in terms of what was trending, I prioritized other topics that I wanted to talk about. As the year has progressed and I've continued to have one-on-one conversations with e-commerce entrepreneurs at all levels, some through the lounge, some through other programs I guest coach in, some just OG clients that I catch up with periodically, unsurprisingly, I find myself having a lot of the same conversations over and over. Most businesses are struggling with the same things. Reach on Instagram is down, traffic to their website is down, people aren't spending as much, and they're flying by the seat of their pants, treading water, running on the hamster wheel, trying to keep things moving. They start looking around at what's happening in the e-commerce space and ultimately end up just adding more to their plate, spreading themselves even thinner, and still not making progress. Does any of this sound familiar? Believe me, I get it. Every day, I feel like I should be doing more in my business. I'm looking around my industry, seeing what others are doing, and think I should be doing it too. I was chatting with a biz friend the other day on Voxer. We were talking about how we both have all of these ideas in our heads about all the cool things we want to do, events we want to host, programs we could create. But the truth is, we both have some foundational things we need to finish up for certain projects, and we have major resistance to them. At the end of the day, they're those boring things that don't have the allure of shiny objects, but they're the things that will help our businesses run on autopilot and ultimately grow. Now, of course, the quickest answer to this struggle is to outsource, some of which we're doing. But we're also going to be holding each other accountable to make sure those things get done so we can chase some of those new shiny objects next year. I tell you all of this to say it's completely normal if you are feeling this way. Literally every entrepreneur struggles with this, I promise. And it can be really easy to think if I just do this one trendy thing, all will be right in my business. But like my friend and I admitted to each other, and like I see with the majority of e-commerce entrepreneurs I talk to, it's not the trends that are missing. It's the foundations. That's not to say trends don't matter. But at the end of the day, chasing every trend in the marketplace isn't going to give you sustainable growth if you're not also capitalizing on and optimizing the strategies that never go out of style. Let's take TikTok Shop, for example. Yes, this is a trend right now, as is social shopping in general. Research for my previous episode showed that Gen Z uses TikTok more than Google to find products. 48% of consumers are likely to buy from TikTok, and global sales through social media are expected to reach $2.9 trillion by 2026. Some more recent numbers show the percentage of online shoppers in the U.S. who buy through social is 63%. When you compare that to places like Thailand, India, UAE, and China, which are all over 80%, it might seem low. But that just means there's still a lot of opportunity for growth in social commerce in the U.S. and that you haven't necessarily missed the boat. Now, this isn't an episode about TikTok Shop or social commerce, but I bring it up because while this is an obvious trend with a lot of opportunity for brands, It doesn't mean that you just hop onto TikTok, add your products to the shop, and all of a sudden everything in your business blows up overnight. You still have to create content that attracts your perfect customer. You still need to optimize your website for conversion and AOV. You still need social proof to make new customers more comfortable buying from you. You still need to utilize email marketing to ramp up your touch points with customers. You still need general marketing campaigns to create a reason for people to pay attention to you. You still need to create a great customer experience so they'll come back and buy from you again and again. So the real answer to the question of this episode, e-commerce trends versus tried and true strategies, well, the answer is both. And so we're going to talk about both of them. First, let's knock out some of these trends. We're not going to spend a ton of time here. Truth is, if you listen to episode 181, it's essentially the same thing I would say if I were recording that episode today. But to give you a quick rundown of what is trending in the e-commerce space, social commerce, influencers, and content creators, omnichannel shopping experiences, mobile-first website optimization, video and augmented reality, AI for personalization and operations, voice search, that's like Alexa, sustainability, and of course, putting the customer experience first. Again, these are all e-commerce trends that will carry through 2024 and beyond, and I'll stick links in the show notes where you can dive deeper into some of these strategies if you want to give them a try. But what I really want the message and takeaway from today's episode to be are the foundational things you should have in place to grow your business in 2024. And before you tune out because you've been in business for a while and you think you have all of this in place already, please stick with me. It doesn't matter whether you've been in business 1 year or 10 years, are generating $12,000 a year or multiple millions per year. There's a pretty good chance you don't have one or more of these as dialed in as it could be. These are the tried and true strategies that never go out of style and those foundational things you want to be implementing in your business. Now, like the trends, we're not going to go super deep into any one thing. I'll put links to other episodes and resources where you can dive deeper if you need to. But think of this like a checklist you can use to audit your business and make sure you have everything ready to go as we move into the back half of the year. This, of course, would not be an episode of the eCommerce Badassery podcast if I didn't talk about email marketing. I have been talking about the importance of this channel since day one of this business. But I still have students, clients, and listeners who I know aren't sending enough email. That alone is a great reminder how important it is to repeat yourself, because even though I talk about it all the time, people still aren't doing it. The same is true for your audience. Just because you've shown them that product before doesn't mean you shouldn't show it to them again. This is part of the reason why email is so important, because people need to see and hear things multiple times before they'll take action. If you are someone who struggles with staying consistent with email, please know you're not alone. I seriously have this conversation at least once a day, if not multiple times a day. And when it comes to why someone isn't sending email, it usually comes down to one of two things, or both of them. They're afraid of being annoying, or they don't know what to say. If you have a fear of sending email, I have a few different mindset shifts to offer you. Pick the one that works for you. If you have something your subscriber needs or wants, and you aren't showing up to remind them that you exist, you're doing them a disservice. If you're not emailing your people, your competitors are. Every email you send is a chance to make sales. Now, knowing what to say in your emails, that one is a little harder to summarize. It's going to depend a bit on your business and what you sell. But the number one piece of advice I can give you is you're likely overthinking it. But I know you need a bit more guidance on that, so make sure you check the show notes for additional resources. If you're not sure whether you need to up your email game or not, here are a few things to consider. At a minimum, you should have these 6 email automations: a welcome series, a browse abandonment, a checkout abandonment, post-purchase, win back, and never purchased. If you don't have those, please get started there. In terms of your campaigns, you ideally want to be sending at least 1 email a week. The bigger your list, the more items you sell, the more emails you can send. The sweet spot is generally 3 to 4 times a week, though plenty of businesses see success sending emails every day. If you're not at least sending 1 a week, though, carve out some time to prioritize that and plan ahead. Once you've got all of that in place, then the main thing you'll want to look at is how much of your total revenue is being driven by email. You should see anywhere from 20 to 30% of your total revenue being generated by your email marketing. This will, of course, fluctuate depending upon your business. Subscription businesses, for example, will see a lower number because the majority of your revenue is automatically recurring. Hobby businesses with a high customer return rate will likely see a larger percentage. If you're newer to business and you're really just focusing on new customer acquisition and maybe you're running a lot of ads, then maybe that overall contribution is going to be a little bit lower at first, but it should stabilize around 20 to 30%. Either way, that should give you a pretty good idea of whether or not your email is doing its job. Your average order value is another item you want to be optimizing in your business. There aren't benchmarks here because it completely depends on the price of your product and how many items your customers typically buy. But your goal should always be to be better than you were yesterday. If you haven't already implemented some sort of cross-sell, upsell, or bundles on your store, please do that as soon as you finish listening to this episode. I would even say you can pause this episode and implement it right now, but the podcast algorithm will punish me if you don't finish the whole thing, so please don't do that. Whether you choose a cross-sell, upsell, or bundle is going to depend on your product assortment, and in some cases, you can implement all three. But here is an example I gave to a lounge member recently. For context, she sells stamps and embossers to people who create wedding invitations and businesses who want custom branding items. If she wanted to offer a return address stamp when someone bought another wedding stamp, I would do that in a cross-sell pop-up after someone adds an item to cart. If she wanted to sell a business branding bundle that included a few different items, I would sell that as a pre-made bundle and set it up as a completely separate product on the store. Maybe she has a handful of best-selling products that she wanted to offer to everyone based on the general category they purchased. So for example, people who buy wedding stamps get served product A, another group of customers would get product B, and then, her business customers would get product C. In that case, I would set that up as a post-purchase cross-sell. You could also implement this more passively by using the complementary products feature with the free Shopify Search and Discovery app. There are so many ways to implement this on your store. Please don't sleep on this. When it comes to bundles specifically, one thing I do want to mention is that the majority of the time, a pre-made bundle where you decide what the products are is going to sell better than a build-your-own bundle because people really just need the mannequin. It doesn't mean you can't do both if it makes sense, but if you were to choose only one, I would start with the pre-made bundle. You can learn more about building your cross-sell and upsell strategy on episode 275, How to Increase Your E-commerce Average Order Value. Another thing to focus on is your on-site shopping experience. That includes everything from your navigation to collection merchandising and even your product filters. We've talked a bit about this on the podcast. I'll stick links in the show notes to those episodes, but it's something I want everyone to look at, even if you think you don't need to. The first thing to know about your e-commerce website is that the average online conversion rate is only 1 to 3%. That doesn't mean you don't have the opportunity to convert better than that. You absolutely do. But I also caution you not to spend too much time tweaking your site if you are within that range. Most of the time, you just need new traffic. But then I also want to make sure you've done your part to set up your site to do the selling for you. So it's a fine line. Think of your website as your sales associate. It's got to guide your customers to where they need to go and give them all the information they need to make a buying decision without overwhelming them. Since you probably spend so much time looking at your site and you know your products really well, it's going to be hard to do this objectively. I recommend you ask a few friends or even a few of your best customers to act as your website testers. The best way to do this is to give them specific tasks to complete. That might be finding a specific product, getting an answer to a specific FAQ, or signing up for a PDF download you have on your website somewhere. Either have them screen record the process or just hop on a video call with them so you can watch them navigate the website. You want to get a sense of what they're trying to do and where they get hung up. You can, of course, do this with a heat mapping software that records your site sessions, but I promise the visual will hit a bit different when you know the specific task that browser is trying to complete. I don't want you to get too hung up on this, but even if you're in that conversion rate, just take 30 to 60 minutes, look at your site, look at some of the big guys in your space, and ask yourself, is there anything you can do to improve the on-site shopping experience? Next up, and this is really one of the most important things, I probably should have put it first, and that's to focus on your profit over revenue. While there are a lot of things to consider when prioritizing profit, the foundation of this is your gross margin. In most cases, I want you to shoot for a 60% gross margin across all of your products when you're selling direct to consumer. While some might be lower and others might be higher, ideally you'll average out to about that 60% mark. And if you can get higher than that, obviously great. I also want you to consider the margin of your products when you're thinking about what you're going to focus on in your marketing. Recently, I was chatting with a lounge member who was trying to get a better handle on her inventory. For her assortment and what she sells, we were working through her numbers at the category level. As she was setting her forecast for the months ahead, I noticed that for one of her categories, she was calculating a larger increase than was typical for that time of year. Because she had been trending down from the revenue goals she set, she was hoping that because that product category would potentially make a good add-on, she was going to increase her focus on that category to make up for some lost sales throughout the year. But there were two problems with the strategy. One, it wasn't contributing much to her business at this point. And two, the margin on it was really low. Even if the reason it wasn't selling well was because she didn't give it much attention and she planned to really highlight it. Because the margin on that category was so low, she would have to sell a ton of units for it to make a measurable difference on her bottom line. Instead, I recommended she focus on increasing sales of her existing bestsellers and highest margin products by putting them front and center in her marketing efforts. Could she use an on-site cross-selling strategy to sell that other product category as an add-on? Sure. But I didn't want her to spend money on bringing in more inventory of a not so profitable product in the hopes that she could make up for it in volume, because that's really hard to do unless you're a big box retailer with a ton of sales. So as you're laying out your plans for the rest of the year and you're thinking about what you're going to focus on in your marketing and for Q4 and all of that good stuff, please make sure that the math is mathin'. And that brings me to my favorite catchphrase, bring them in with the best and then sell them the rest. Essentially, stop trying to sell all the things in your marketing. Whether it's your organic social, your paid ads, or even your automated welcome series, you do not have to try and sell every category to every customer. Focus your efforts on your best-selling and most profitable products. Then, once people get to your website, you use cross-sells and bundles to promote the rest of your items, and obviously people are just going to shop around, so it's fine. Not only does this make your life easier from a marketing perspective, but it's also going to help you become known for something. So that makes it easier for your customer to understand who you are, what you sell, and when they should refer you to one of their friends. The last thing I want to talk about today is being intentional and consistent with your copy. In addition to being laser focused on the products you're promoting, I also want you to be laser focused in the words and language you use. I know a lot of people sometimes struggle with what to say in their marketing, whether it's an Instagram caption, an email, or even a paid advertisement. Most people think they need to be a wordsmith to connect with their customers, but that's not true. I'm going to stick some links in the show notes to help you with this, but there are really 3 key things I want you to keep in mind when it comes to writing copy in your business. Number 1, use the words your customers use. Number 2, speak directly to the outcome they're looking for from your products. And number 3, ask for the conversion. If you were to talk to any copywriter about the number 1 most important step to writing great copy, they'd tell you it was research. Not only do they research your brand, your product, and your industry, but they research your customers. What are the things they're saying about products like yours in reviews? What questions are they asking? What objections do they have? What is the real outcome they're looking for? Then they aim to answer those questions and overcome those objections using the same exact language the customer uses when they're talking about a product like yours and the outcome they're looking for. Now, if you don't know what to say in your marketing, it might be because you've skipped this research step. It could also be because you feel like you've said it all before and you feel like repeating yourself is annoying. But as we've learned multiple times in this episode already, repetition is your friend. This podcast is actually a great example of repetition. The fact that I have said multiple times, I will link you to other episodes where I dive deeper into this just means that I've already talked about these things on the podcast. But my conversations with you reveal that the message hasn't quite clicked yet. And believe me, I myself need to hear things multiple times before I take action too. It's just human nature. So don't let the fear of being annoying hold you back from marketing your business. And then there's asking for the conversion. You got to tell people what to do. As you may already know, if you've been hanging out with me for any length of time, I have always had a problem with authority. And I certainly don't want to be told what to do. Since you're an entrepreneur, there's a pretty good chance you don't like being told what to do either. But your customers, they love it. They need it to be spelled out for them like they're an 8-year-old. Click this link, comment on this post, reply to this story, sign up for this list, learn more about this product, shop now. Make sure you include a call to action in every piece of marketing material you put out in the world and that the next step is super clear. So, speaking of making the next step super clear, what's your next step? First, I want you to take a quick audit of your business and the tried and true strategies we discussed here. Email marketing, cross-sells, upsells, and bundles to raise your AOV, your on-site shopping experience, profit over revenue, focusing your marketing on your best sellers, and being intentional and consistent in your copy. If you don't think you can look at your business objectively, enlist the help of your team, a biz friend, or come join the lounge so you can get my brain on your business. Prioritize getting these things dialed in before you worry about chasing the next e-commerce trend. And this doesn't have to take you a long time. Even if you had to optimize and improve everything on this list, with some deep focused work, you can get it done in the next 30 days. Don't have any email automations? No problem. Get up an MVP and you can improve it later on. Progress over perfection. Check the show notes for links to other episodes and resources for anything that you need to dive deeper into. And remember to give yourself a little grace. You're only freaking human. Once you've got all of these items dialed in, then you can start diving into some of those trends that we're talking about, like maybe implementing augmented reality or doing some more social commerce and getting on something like TikTok Shop. Maybe it's working with influencers and creators. But make sure you have all of these foundational things in place first, because having all of this dialed in means everything else that you do will convert better, will be more impactful, and ultimately more profitable. And that, my friends, is a wrap on this week's episode. I hope you're having a kick-ass summer, have a kick-ass rest of your day, of your week, all the things, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn more about growing your e-commerce business, get started with my free resource library at ecommercebadassery.com/free stuff and get an invite to the lounge, my e-commerce marketing membership. When you're ready for one-on-one support, apply to work with me at ecommercebadassery.com/apply. Before you go, would you do me a quick favor? Leave a rating and review and tap that follow button. This pushes me up the chart so I can support more scrappy e-commerce entrepreneurs just like you. I'm on a mission to reach as many as I can, and I could really use your help. Thanks so much in advance. Until next time, e-commerce friend, stay badass.